As someone who hasn't played the spin-off titles in the Kingdom Hearts series, well, other than Chain of Memories, I must admit that I was nervous about diving back in. It's been years since I took up the Keyblade and guided Sora as he fought against the darkness, and I think it's fair to say that the story isn't regarded as the most straightforward. Yet, despite the convoluted narrative, I have a soft spot for the series as a whole. I was instantly swept away by the mashup of Disney and Final Fantasy properties with Tetsuya Nomura's character design back in 2002, even if I only understood half of what was going on. So as a returning fan, I wanted to see if Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue could not only rekindle my love for the series, but get me excited for its next main installment. The compilation doesn't include one of those main entries, but as I'll explain, it's ultimately an unmissable entry for both fans who need a catch-up and those desperate for a taste of what's to come, especially as it looks like we're going to be waiting a while for Kingdom Hearts 3. Oh, and for the record, no, I'm not going to be saying that full title again because, The main meat of HD 2.8 is Dream Drop Distance HD, a remaster of the 3DS title from 2012. Set after the events of Kingdom Hearts 2, it tells the tale of Sora and Riku as they attempt to complete a test called the Mark of Mastery, all in the hopes of becoming a fully fledged Keyblade Master, because apparently they haven't done enough to earn that right yet. To do this, they must awaken 7 sleeping worlds through the use of their Keyblades. Of course, these familiar worlds based on Disney properties are filled with creatures called Dream Eaters, which end up being both the game's main enemies and adorable allies. Yes, there's a new set of creatures outside of the Heartless and Nobodies thrown into the series, and I'll admit that I was initially overwhelmed by the jargon and MacGuffins thrown my way at the top of 3D. Thankfully, the game does a good job of bringing players up to speed with optional cutscenes and summaries of previous events and games. I mean, it's still all convoluted as hell, but I came out of 3D with a better grasp of what was going on. Well, it's either that or Nomura has finally scrambled my sanity so much that it just seems like everything makes sense. Anyway, let's talk about the actual gameplay. The good news is that 3D's handheld origins have in no way hindered this PS4 remaster. It's a clear testament to the dev team that it handles like a fully fledged Kingdom Hearts game, and the flow motion mechanics, which allow Sora and Riku to dart around the environment and even certain enemies, made the action so much more enjoyable. This, along with the deck system, which allows players to switch in different combo attacks and magic spells, makes it the most flexible and enjoyable combat system the franchise has ever had. That flexibility extends to the Dream Eaters that fight alongside the player. Known as spirits, their double duty as companions and providers of special moves works well, especially when you start combining them to create powerful finishers. Their progression system will also seem familiar to those of you who have played World of Final Fantasy. The freeform grid which unlocks new upgrades and abilities isn't quite as in-depth as some might hope, but there's enough there to offer meaningful choice. Besides, there's still plenty of other things to do throughout 3D. It took me over 20 hours to finish the main story on standard mode, and even then I hadn't done most of the side content. Things such as link portals, which offer various challenging scenarios to beat, or the flick rush mode where your spirits fight other Dream Eaters. Hell, even the dive levels before visiting each world offer prizes for good scores, and the spirit-based minigames, which allow you to play with your companions in a virtual pet style, mean that completists among you will have more than enough to keep you busy. As someone using this remaster as their first time playing 3D, I now understand why many considered it such an important and frankly unmissable chapter of the series. It manages to tie up most of the loose ends from the previous games, and its superb combat made me remember why I loved the series in the first place. That said, those of you who played it on the 3DS may find less of a reason to be excited. Outside of 3 new Dream Eaters to collect and the obvious visual polish, which looks great in 60 frames per second, just so you know, it's still the same game as before. A great game, admittedly, but still the same nonetheless. So it falls to the other 2 pieces of content in HD 2.8 to offer something relatively new. The first is Key Back Cover, an hour-long film, for lack of a better word, told through in-game cinematics. It retells the events of the mobile title Unchained Key, which sheds new light on how the Keyblade War actually began. Well, kind of. It's still pretty ambiguous and doesn't answer many questions, but it does introduce the Master of Masters, whose colourful personality was refreshing compared to the rest of the po-faced cast. Perhaps the most important reason to watch Key Back Cover is that the in-game cinematics play out in the Unreal Engine 4. Sure, it means that the visuals are always going to look fantastic, but it gives us a taste of what's to come with Kingdom Hearts 3, which will also utilise that game engine. More so than the third part of HD 2.8, which we'll get to in a minute, it gave me time to truly appreciate the attention to detail in the character models and environments, some of which were just absolutely breathtaking. That said, the real demonstration of what is to come is in 0.2 Birth by Sleep, a fragmentary passage. Also utilising the Unreal Engine 4, this playable episode tells the story of Keyblade Master Aqua and what happened to her in the Realm of Darkness, acting as both as an epilogue to Birth by Sleep and as another lead into the upcoming sequel. Again, the visual prowess here is absolutely stunning, with some of the combat animations and spells truly a sight to behold. The controls also handle exceptionally well, as I was able to move around with ease and deal out various attacks with gleeful abandon. Even the shotlock mechanic from Birth by Sleep fits seamlessly, but the showstopper is clearly the Wayfarer finisher. I'll be more than happy if that's just a taster of some of the kind of special attacks we'll be getting in Kingdom Hearts 3. However, I do have one complaint and potential worry for the upcoming sequel, and that's the noticeably low frame rate in a fragmentary passage. The difference in FPS compared to Dream Drop Distance HD is like night and day, to the point that I found it quite jarring despite constantly gawking at the beautiful environments. This is an issue I've seen in a number of Unreal Engine 4 projects in recent years, and I certainly hope that Square Enix fix it before Kingdom Hearts 3 releases. After all, some of the series' more challenging boss fights really do demand higher frame rates for those quick reactions, and frankly Dream Drop Distance HD has now spoilt me with its silky smooth FPS. But I digress. I was able to complete a fragmentary passage in just under 4 hours, which isn't bad for what is effectively a single game world. Beyond that, there is limited replayability for completists thanks to the objectives list, filled with challenges such as killing specific types of Heartless or doing specific actions that reward the player with cosmetic items for dressing up Aqua. While some of them are fairly adorable, I did find it disappointing that the changes aren't reflected in the in-game cinematics. Should such a feature be coming to Kingdom Hearts 3, I do hope that player customization is reflected in these key scenes. You know, mainly because I just want to see a cat-eared Sora become canon, damn it. The big question though is if HD 2.8 is worth getting, and while I admit this is a cheap way of escaping a definitive answer, the truth is that your mileage may vary. If you're a hardcore fan who has played every game on every platform and has even played the mobile game since last year, £40 for a 4-hour sampler of what Kingdom Hearts 3 will be like is a huge ask. In fact, the series' new catchphrase, "May your heart be your guiding key," is fairly apt in regards to whether this compilation is right for you. Then again, as someone who has skipped almost all of the content outside of the 2 main entries, the 25 or so hours I've spent playing have been an enjoyable return to the series. Yes, the story is still beyond ridiculous, but that was always part of its charm, the other parts being the slick action gameplay and diving into childhood memories in Disney worlds. In short, its value may fall depending on your investment in the series so far, but Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue is both an enjoyable way to catch up on the story and a tantalising taste of what's to come.